junk guess still life, which really can be said to reinvent Rossellini and Antonioni in a Chinese
Любое издание должно быть без
It
опечаток.
provides Chinese non-Hollywood
Замолчи,
to
идиот.
the production of the couple. The irony is that the building of the three gorgeous dams, this brutal, gigantic human intervention, natural environment, this embodiment of collective humanity, is rendered less than the material which provides the background to the couple's decision and redemption There are in the film two individual stories which are set against this background. An ex husband and a wife looking for their spouse. The conflict subverts forever although the two individuals looking for their spouse.
Что-нибудь случилось?
Да нет, ничего страшного. Нет, ничего страшного, конечно, нет. Я просто хочу посмотреть, может быть, я ошибаюсь. Нет, то есть я не ошиблась. Вот именно, Маш, давай все по порядку. Нет, я лучше сама, я лучше одна посмотрю.
Уж больно все срочно. Все спешат, всем нет.
Ideologically resonate in the general background context. More generally, the whole of still life is characterized by the properly dialectical tension between form and content, a tension which brings to mind not so much Rossellini and Antonioni as rather Robert Altman, who is, I think, one of the few true great masters of American cinema. For example, Altman's shortcuts. Altman's universe, again, best rendered by shortcuts, is that of contingent encounters between a multitude of series, parallel destinies, a universe in which different series communicate and resonate at the level of what Altman himself refers to as subliminal reality, meaningless mechanical shocks, encounters, impersonal intensities which precede the level of social meaning. We are still with mirror, I think. Okay, it's a background. What this means is that one should avoid the temptation, the usual leftist temptation of reducing Altman to a poet of American alienation, rendering the silent despair of everyday life in the upper middle class suburbia and so on. There is another much more optimistic Altman, the one of opening oneself to joyful contingent encounters. I think one should do to Altman what Deleuze and Guattari proposed to do to Kafka. We shouldn't be deceived by this Kafkaesque obsession with this bureaucracy, absent God, search for meaning, and so on. Look, it's this big background absence which blinds us for the joyful present, small object things like Kundera, whom I otherwise, Milan Kundera, the Czech writer, don't appreciate so much, had a wonderful line. He wrote somewhere that for this metaphysically obsessed Western people, Kafka is the poet of alienation, absent God, but that for many Czechs, I hope this is true what he said, Kafka is a poet of, it's like comical children's fairy tales. Isn't it funny? You go to sleep, you awaken as a giant insect or whatever. I mean, okay, it's not exactly to laugh, but the point is that if there is a Kafkaesque despair, it is nonetheless rooted in this experience. Kafka is a profoundly comical author, which, again, in no way cancels his existential anxieties and so on. He should rather, I think, be read at the same level as, for example, the fact that all good films about Holocaust are comedies. Not because it was easy, like we can laugh at it, but this is my old topic that I like to emphasize. When things get really horrible, you can no longer make a tragedy. It's an obscenity to make a tragedy. If you make a standard tragedy. Imagine in Auschwitz an evil Nazi officer confronting a Jew or gypsy or a prisoner there, and the prisoner proudly stands up, no, rather give my life, and so on. It's ridiculous. It gives too much dignity to the Nazis. You were too humiliated there to play this heroic role. And now we are at the other background, this one. So again, I think it's the same thing. That's what provides the true wealth, richness, and artistic excellence of Altman's universe, I think. It's not this, it's not really about all this alienation of American couple. You should read it against the background of this much more refined texture of the film. It's totally different ontology. And this is what accounts for the tension. I'm sorry, I don't have time because I usually talk too long. I even wanted to make at this point a kind of a musical excursion and propose to read against this background as an example of communism in music, Eric Satie, you know, all those gymnopedies and so on. It may sound strange, like usually we associate with communism in music what we heard there, now these bombastic cantatas, oratorios for the heroism of the working class and so on. But it's much more complex. Do you know, I was shocked to learn that in the last years of his life, Satie was not only a member of the French Communist Party, but a member of the Central Committee. Do you know, for example, that another French composer who also usually stands for this kind of reserved French bourgeois attitude, Maurice Ravel, that he, for example, in 1924, he rejected membership in Académie Française out of protest of how France is treating Soviet Union. He was also the first to set to music some anti-colonialist African popular protest songs and so on. So my idea is that what you find, you know that Satie characterized his music as musique d'ameublement, furniture music. His whole point was that it should function as background, as rendering background palpable, which is why to associate Satie with somebody who is undoubtedly closer to you. Do you know that John Cage was a great, great admirer of Satie because of this? So, again, that's my subversive communist seduction, you know. Be aware when you listen to Satie, you are already under the spell of communist propaganda or what. Okay, but let me go on. So again, I think that the same as what now I finally caught it up. The same as what I said for Altman also holds for still life. Even this obvious desolation, depression engendered by the film's content shouldn't deceive us. The underlying mood of the film, rendered by its formal texture, is the one of melancholic beauty, affirmation of life. This is what I think, a true art, true new domain of art in cinema, which is why, for example, I was fascinated when David Lynch, who does, I think, unfortunately, many crazy things, all that meditation stuff and so on, that he fell in love with the city of Lodz, I think, in Poland, and he was fascinated by this Tarkovskian countryside of industrial building falling apart, being recaptured by nature. Walter Benjamin had somewhere a wonderful line. He says that we only get a true sense of history when we see historical objects, monuments, half abandoned, recaptured by nature. I think this is, here I see an option for truly great cinema today. To conclude, I wanted to do two Hollywood neglected masterpieces. I think it's better to skip the first one. So please, Dave, when this one is over, go directly to the clips from John Carpenter's They Live. I wanted to begin with John Frankenheimer's Seconds, which is, I think, an incredible neglected masterpiece. We don't have time, so I go to John Carpenter's They Live from 1988. Again, I think, the neglected masterpiece, maybe, of the Hollywood left. It's a true lesson in critique of ideology, in how even in Hollywood you can do some works against it. You can undermine it. It is, they leave, the story of John Nada. Nice irony, it's Nada is Spanish for nothing, a proletarian position as it were, a homeless laborer who finds work on a Los Angeles construction site. One of the workers, Frank Armitage, there takes him to spend night at a local shantytown. While being shown around that night, Nada notices some odd behavior at a small church across the street. Investigating it next day, he accidentally stumbles on several more boxes hidden in a secret compartment in a wall full of sunglasses. When he later puts on a pair of these mysterious sunglasses, what happens? Well, wait a second, let's have a little bit of background. I mean, this is still the very end of still life. No, really, what I admire in this film is that it resists the obvious temptation of this wild dissident attack on the Three Gorges Dam, precisely by keeping this devastation, ecological devastation, gently in the background. It does a much more effective job of critique. I mean, everything is here. It shows the... Oh, here we are, perfect, let's go on. What happens when you put glasses on? Like this.
What's your problem? I said, what's your problem?
How are you today, sir?
Okay, how's it going?
Fine, thank you. Thank you, sir. Here you are, sir. Thank you. Hey, buddy. You gonna pay for that or what? Look, buddy, I don't want no hassle today. Either pay for it or put it back.